The Informant is the story of Mark Whitacre, who worked for Archer Daniels Midland and was working on their lysine business, which is a food additive that is made from corn and goes into just about everything. And there was a possible FBI investigation about something else, and when the FBI came in, he promptly blew the whistle about price fixing, which the FBI then puts him to work as an informant. And you kind of see a complete mental breakdown of Matt Damon's character, Mark Whitacre. This is based on a novel, and it was directed by Steven Soderbergh. And a lot of people didn't see it, didn't get really probably the attention it deserved. The tomato meter for the movie was 85%. It was certified fresh, one of our higher accolades. The critics loved the movie for the most part, but the audience just wasn't there. And it's one of those things that I think we had discussed talking about it on today's show so that people would really get out and see it. It's a great performance. I'll just jump in with my review. It's a great performance by Matt Damon. Fantastic. And it's at the same time hilarious and horrifying seeing what Whitacre does. You know, they talk about later in the film that he's diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and you really see this, and I can only describe it as a mental breakdown. He starts making things up, and the ultimate part of this story, and probably everybody knows this by now, is as he was blowing the whistle and as he was serving as an informant, he was embezzling from ADM, and he ended up doing more jail time, 3 times as much jail time as any of the executives that were indicted in the price fixing. And there are people who, you know, some of the agents that he worked with will swear up and down that he was the hero of that story. And it's a terrible miscarriage of justice that he ended up doing so much time.
I, of course, love that theme, the theme of the little guy versus the powerful. And unfortunately, the powerful always win, right? Now, there's some nuances to it, and there's some twists and turns in that story, so you got to see how it turns out. But you know, as you see the big guys getting away with it, you're pulling your hair out. So it had a good theme, obviously, and I thought it was funny and great acting, Matt Damon, etc. But you know, the thing that stopped me from loving it, Christy, is that I didn't feel like as great as Matt Damon was in the movie, and that I didn't get a true sense of what's this guy's motivation? Why is he doing what he's doing? He's so quirky that I didn't have a full grasp of it. I think that was the only thing that I was a little hesitant about the movie.
But that becomes clear, I think, at the end, when you know what the deal is. And what I love about The Informant for the whole way through is that you don't know what the deal is. You don't know whether he's just a regular guy who gets in over his head, whether he has delusions of grandeur of being this super spy. He calls himself 0014 because he's twice as smart as 007. Or whether he really is a devious and duplicitous guy. You don't know the whole way through, but you do find out at the end. And I think that is the payoff, and that is what you refer to as horrifying when you discover what the truth is, what's going on with him psychologically. What I thought the weak link was his wife, because you don't know what she knows and when she knows it. She's this doting, docile, perfect suburban housewife, and you wonder, how far is she in this too?
And one of the things that I actually feel was somewhat of a miss in this movie, and I felt would have actually added to it, and I'm somewhat surprised that they left it out, is that the reason he went to the FBI in reality, the reason Whitacre in reality went to the FBI about the price fixing was he was pressured from his wife. And she had said to him that if you don't go to the FBI, I'm going.
Right, now that was, again, that was hinted at in the movie, but, and you're right about the ending, it's just, I felt there was something missing. Like, I wanted to know more about what motivated him, even at the end. Yeah. So, but having said that, I really liked the movie. It was very enjoyable. Matt Damon had a great performance. I thought he should have been nominated for a Best Actor.
I agree, actually. I'm somewhat surprised he didn't get nominated. You know, he put on a bunch of weight for the role. He really kind of, moved away from that pretty boy persona, the action hero, the good-looking guy. Like, he really is playing a character here. And he kind of disappears into the role, which I thought was really impressive.
You know who he reminded me of in that movie? I don't know if you guys get this, but Brad Pitt in Burn After Reading, that had a similar, like, almost over-the-top kind of character, really quirky character, and I love Brad Pitt in that role too. So at the end, I got to say, I gave the movie a 7.5. I mean, I was tempted to go all the way to 8, okay, but because I thought it wasn't quite there, but I think if you rent this movie, at this point, obviously, it's out on DVD, I think you're going to be, not pleasantly surprised, but just happy with it. I think that's a hell of a DVD rental. So I went all the way up to a 7.5. Maybe I'm underselling it, Matt.
I'm a little bit over it, a little bit over your score. I gave it an 8. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think it's a little bit something different than we've seen out of Steven Soderbergh. And I almost feel like, partly it's the score and the title cards you kept seeing. I felt like, and maybe you're going to know what I'm going to say, I felt like it was Soderbergh almost channeling Blake Edwards. There were times in this movie that it almost felt like a Blake Edwards movie, in that some of the stuff that Whitacre does and some of the twists and turns and his reactions to things, and he'll say these things that are just jaw-dropping. That it's, for instance, the amount of money that he keeps embezzling keeps changing, and he'll talk to the feds, he'll be talking to the FBI, and he's the one saying a higher number, or his lawyer at some point comes in and does this amazing performance, which again happened in real life, saying to the Department of Justice that here's a guy that you guys used for 3 years with no training, going undercover. Of course he cracked. Of course he cracked. Of course he was going to embezzle and really start losing himself. You have to take it easy on him. And they offered him a plea bargain. And Whitacre himself says, oh no, I don't want that. We're going to fight it. And hires some personal injury lawyer who shows up, and then you see him in the movie show up to meet with the DOJ in a Hawaiian shirt. And I'm thinking, it's just...
But that's the thing, though. I mean, he was so quirky that he was bordering on dumb. And that's what, I couldn't tell if he was dumb or not. He got hired to be a COO, I believe,
and that's
later.
what I thought was great
in
about
real life.
Is that it was, this kind of insanity, and this happened. And that's what really sold me on it.
I like that it happened and that Soderbergh made it a comedy. He didn't make it a really serious action thriller drama like The Insider or even his own Aaron Brockovich or whatever. It's a comedy, and it's like a 70s style comedy. I love the way it's shot. It's sort of these faded kind of beiges with really heavy backlighting. The Marvin Hamlish score makes it feel very 70s. I love that about it. And also just the interior monologue, which makes a lot more sense upon a second viewing as far as giving you a clue as to his true mental state. And it's this totally, bizarre observations on the word for tuna in Japanese and the word for pen in German, and these non sequiturs that come out of nowhere. But then you realize upon second viewing, wow, okay, this is a clue.
Well, and what I thought was great, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not so much that the voiceover is a narration, so much as it's a real-time thought process, which is fascinating to me. Once I figured that out, it really changes the movie. And again, and to your point about it being a comedy, I'm not sure you could go any other way with that story. I mean, if you
could have been like The Insider, though.
Well, right, but
wasn't.
but if you went with something like The Insider, there's no way to play off your character, your informant, acting so crazy. I don't think you could, unless you go. Yeah, I guess you could, if you went with a Shutter Island type of thing, where,
is he crazy or not?
Is he crazy or not? Right? But,
yeah, I hear you. And Kirsty makes a really good point about the dialogue. It's the kind of movie that you can see twice, which is then, that's pretty high praise for a movie, to say that you could see it twice, because it has such good dialogue and such good acting by Matt Damon. What was your final score on it, Kirsty?
I gave it an 8. I really liked it, and I thought it got massively overlooked. I'm guessing just because of subject matter, no one could get their hands around what is this thing. It's a comedy, but it's about lysine.
Right.
And people didn't see it, which is a bummer, and Matt Damon was great in it. So.
All right, so then it's an easy DVD rental because, we're all the way up to an average of 7.8 on it, which is a pretty damn high score, and I almost gave it the same exact thing as you guys did, and we seem to have a lot of high praise for it. So apparently, go see The Informant.